Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to greet you all here at this absolutely exceptional occasion. I'm very happy to greet Santiago Sierra in Moscow. He's here for the first time, and of course, this is a rare opportunity for all of us present here to see the artist in person, to welcome him, and also to benefit from the comments that he will give to his works. And as I understand from what I have learned, we had a very brief exchange with Santiago before the official opening, before this official ceremony. He doesn't like to talk much about his work. Now, we have to take that into account. But I must admit that his work does invite speculation. In fact, its power is that you want to think about it and you want to talk about it. You want to speculate about it. And maybe this is beyond his concern as an artist, but this is what his work invites us to do. And I must tell you frankly that while I was going through your works, your older works, on the eve of your arrival, I found myself trapped between two basic attitudes. On the one hand, I wanted to express what I felt and what your works suggest, so I was kind of eloquent, like silently eloquent in response to your works. But on the other hand, there were moments when I felt that there was nothing to say, because the work says everything for itself. I mean, your message is so clear-cut and so explicit that, in a way, it does not call for any additional comment. So, still, we are here to hear those comments, however brief or concise they may be. And I think that the public gathered here may not know much about your biography, let's put it that way. So maybe you could tell us a few words about your whereabouts now. I know that you flew in from Spain, but there was a time when you lived in Mexico. So just tell us something about yourself. Where do you live? Why is it Spain again? And where does your inspiration come from on the daily level?
No, I want to clear some things. No, the question is that I think that the way I like to talk is to making artworks, no? And I think, and I trust completely in the artwork, and I'm thinking in how to clarify everything, just making an art piece, and not trying to use something else, no, to help myself, or to help myself using philosophers, or to help myself using bibliography or something, no? Just to present the things as facts. And I think that should be basically enough, no? When you show a piece, no? It's not necessarily many words, but I understand that sometimes it's interesting, no? To have the direct contact, no? I living in Spain, it's true, since 3 years ago. But, well, it's a question of to have a base in Europe, because I was working a lot in Latin America, and in Latin America the question is that the work was done more by me or so nobody called me to work there, or nobody asked me to do nothing, no? Sometimes they ask me, no? But then, but the people who call me a lot is the Europeans. So in my life I was crossing the ocean like 3 times or 4 times a year, and I was very tired doing that, no? That's why I moved to Madrid, and also because it's nice to come back and to see in the first line how a country is falling down, no? How an entire idea, no, which is Europe, is falling down in front of your eyes, and taking notes and making art about that. So I think I arrived in a very interesting moment, in a very dramatic moment. But I'm not going to stay for a long time. So in January I moved back to Mexico and to Peru, and I will be around, no? I'm coming back in April, so I'm like a ping pong ball, So trying to live somewhere, no? But my life is basically like a gypsy life, nomadic.
So I think that what we see behind us, what you turned on, before the beginning of the talk, a performance that was dated 2012, right? I think it's a comment to the state of affairs in Europe, probably, and not only there. So maybe you could tell us more about your recent work, and then we could go back to what you did before and what you are acclaimed and known for specifically. But tell us more about the future. Actually, what I see here in this statement is a certain comment on a lack of social imagination that has been noticed by very many scholars in various fields, in the humanities, of course, first of all. Like a lack of social imagination in the sense that the image of future that we have today is only a projection of what we know, of what there already exists in the present. So we can't imagine the future, in fact. We can only project our knowledge onto the future. And this is a what?
It's easy to imagine future. For all of us, the future is death.
Death.
It's the death, is to be dead. No? Our future will be to be dead sooner or later. This is the future of all of us. So when I'm born in the future, I'm not born in something that, we don't have future. No, so fuck the future is what I'm saying. No? Just live the present and resolve the things in the present without making plans for nothing. No? I think this is one of the big problems, not for a society, but for each person. No? Many person is living in a trap of their past or thinking in the problems it's going to have in the future. And I think that life is that. Life is to live the moment, no? To live in the present. In the case of this piece, it's done in Valencia, in El Cabañal. This is an area that is a beautiful place. I don't know if you know Sorolla, the painter of Mediterranean light. It's the neighborhood where he used to paint his pictures. And it's a fisher's neighborhood, an old fisher's neighborhood, becoming now a low-class neighborhood. And it's right in a beautiful place in front of the sea, so they cannot be there. So they have to be thrown out, gentrified, because it's a perfect place to put hotels for tourists, And they are destroying the neighborhood of these people. They asked me, the Association of Neighborhoods. Usually I work with institutions, but sometimes I work or by my own or because a social organization called me, and in that case was a social group, is the Association of Neighborhoods. And it's the place where you see is, is going to be destroyed. This is an empty lot destroyed by neoliberalism, one of many. And I used techniques very common in Valencia, which is the fallas. They used to make once a year big sculptures, awful sculptures, but they burn it, which is good. And I work with these handcrafters, that make fallas. So it was very Valencian. The day we did this video was I wake up the next morning and all the city was smelling burn. And I thought was for me, but it wasn't. No? The same day, people was I suppose the power decided to burn some forests around for requalification of the land, no? And to make more buildings. And all the city was full of strong smell of fire. And so it was very, I don't know, I think it was very precise, the piece.
But this piece makes me think of another one. You had a global tour in 2012 called No. I mean, the two letters that were taken to different lands, I would say, in different countries. Could you tell us more about the idea behind that tour and how it was actually organized, because it was a worldwide tour?
Yes, well, I was, if you see my work previous to the No Global Tour, You will see that I'm trying to make a materialistic art in the sense that I'm not trying to project my desires, but to talk about reality, about facts. And in No Global Tour is the first time I project my desire, no? Or project something that is my will to say no, no? To say, I think no is the only possible conversation we can have with the power. I believe that, or I think that only our organization, the self-organization of the people without leaders and without bosses can be an option for a better future. But there is also another no, no? The no, well, it's two different no's. The no that the children can say to the father and the no that the father can say to the children. In one case is for the freedom of acts and the freedom of deliberation of the children, for emancipation. No? And in the case of the father, it's just to control the movements of the children, to canalize his efforts of his energy. You know? So can be considered coercive. So I was trying to play with these two sides of the no. But my idea is to make it, I was really, so when you have a life of traveling all the time and you see that the places you went once and you came back are worse and happens all over, no? So you go then you realize that it's something visceral, no? It's just to say no, to stop it, or let's do something. I use, what we did is to make a very big no of, well, the maximum we can handle in a car, to go all through cities or through different countries in the Western countries, no? Basically Europe and the USA, and then they now went to Japan or to other places. We make a movie just following the no as main character, and we film it in many places, no? In the NATO headquarters, for example, or in Times Square, which I think is my best. So it's a top for my life to put a no in Times Square. For me, it's like, wow, I did it. No? So I can rest. I don't know, it's very intense, you know. Last week we make a projection of the No in Hamburg in a cinema, and I discovered that the film had a lack of music, no? Because, well, not music, but sound. And I was working with Francisco Lopez, which is a very good musician, a contemporary art musician. And the movie changed a lot, no? So become much more powerful. So then the version of the No Global Tour you have in the website will be changed very soon to include this sound, no? Which make it much more intense, the No Global Tour. After this No Global Tour, I can show you, for example, another piece which is about with this concept, no? The concept of my desire, not the reality. Well, a ver, os enseño otro video. I'm going to show another video. Well, this is for example another piece. It's done in 2 years. It's the same concept, no? To travel, pieces that you do by traveling, no? For example, the K. This is Melbourne, in Australia. The A, and it's done with some kind of wood. The A is in New Zealand. It's done with milk, with bottles of milk, and was shoot. So the K was born, the A was shoot, the P is, I don't know, plaster material, was destroyed, and it's close to Vienna, I don't remember the city, in Austria. The I is Papua New Guinea, and is destroyed by hand with machete. The T is Berlin, the A is Paris, the L is Reykjavik in Iceland. The I is done with sheet in India. It's a human sheet. It's an eye done with human sheet, and it's just falling down. The S is done with pig's feet, and they eat it. And the M was done in Sweden. Well, the S is in Holland, and the M was done in Sweden and destroyed. I did it piece by piece, so nobody knows what I was destroying. I was just telling the people, I want to destroy an eye. Okay, destroy it. So slowly we did it. And when you see it's not a reality. We are not destroying the capitalism, we are building the capitalism and making more strong each day. It's a projection of the desire. Imagine everybody together destroying this stupid society, but never happened. It's very noisy. If you hear the real videos, it's terribly noisy.
Is each letter destroyed in the end?
See, we destroy at the end. I'm going to show you the end. Or the middle and then the end, for example. Well, it's very funny the shooting, because the shooting was done with people of the army and policemen. So they didn't know what they are doing. It was funny. But not always. No, some pieces. I'm showing you some pieces that are not regular, that I don't used to do. But I can, for example, I don't know if it's here the pigs devouring the different countries. A ver, ¿dónde está esto? ¿Cómo lo paro? Aquí. A ver, ¿están aquí los pigs? No. And in that, this is a series I make is with different peninsulas. It's Spain and the Italic, well, Spain and Portugal, the Iberic Peninsula, the Italic Peninsula, and the Greek Peninsula. And I make it with pig's feet, and they eat it. And I think this is more materialistic, or more what is going on. No? This is the last news from Spain. The most, the video who looks better of this series is the Italic Peninsula, because the sharp is easier to recognize. In Spain we have a very big surface and you don't see it very well. But this is the most eschatological. No? Here in that video the pigs start to throw up, other video eat it, other pig eat the throats, they were peeing and make, it's the most eschatological. No? The Italian is the most elegant, and the version of Greek eaten by pigs is the most anarchic. No? It's the most, because it's Iceland everywhere, and it's more the feet, or more like cracks. No? Crack, crack, crack. But it's nice to illustrate our talk. No? To have pigs devouring my country, or the rest of the country. This is Barcelona. The noise here is done by Clinton Watkins, which is a musician from New Zealand who's working with brainwaves. So he's transforming the movements of the animals in brainwaves in order to create deep sensation of uncomfortability, but at the same time it's like magnetic. When I put this video the first time in Italy, it was very weird, because usually never happened. Everybody was in silence, because the music that you cannot hear it very well, that goes inside you, it's very, very tricky, makes you stay in front of a video like visceral, once and again and once and again.
Visceral?
See, it's very visceral.
And what are they eating? I mean, what are the...
It's pig's feed.
Just
regular food for pigs. But you make it in... I was trying to make it with America too, but with North America, but I couldn't get it yet. But I imagine to make it with mountains, with more details, no? With all and with pigs in big size, because the pigs they have there is mutant pigs, no? That like cows. I think could be interesting, but I didn't get it yet. I hope to make it soon. And the last work, for example, was I'm working a lot with veterans, asking veterans if they would like to face the wall for hours for me, and they feel really good doing that. So it was not bad for them. They feel like showing themselves in the way they want to show themselves.
Can you show us an example of this work?
Sí. And the last veterans we put in facing the wall was in the Londonderry for the British and Derry for the Irish. in a headquarters. So for the first time we put the veterans in their place, and not in art spaces, but in their own place, in a headquarters. The headquarters is abandoned because they want to make the headquarters was in a hill and dominates all the city, and they wanted to transform it in art, because art sometimes is very useful to clean the face of empires or bad things. And the video is very powerful, but it's still, well, we opened the show a few days ago in Derry. In that case, we also recorded the sound of the silence in places where the British Army tortured IRA people. Well, it's psychological, because what you hear is nothing, no? You hear the silence, but in high volume, and it becomes suspicious, no? You hear, maybe the noise is just a rat, but you think that it's something related with torture. It's psychological, and it's very powerful, no? And it's nothing, it's silence.
Tell us, Santiago, do these people stand, or do you choose one person to stand at a time, one at a time, or you used to assemble people before, you know, you would have them stand in a row facing the wall. I remember your work of 2004. It was not about veterans at that time, of course. It was about the Iraqi immigrants in London. I remember that performance. And then you covered them with a special, you know, mold or whatever. So you produced essentially a sculpture. Maybe you could show us this work. It was a sculpture, and then the people walked out of the mold, and it remained in its place, but it was hollow. And the people, they just walked off, or that you assembled them in 2s and 3s before they disappeared completely. So maybe we could.
I don't find it here.
We don't have it here.
See, well, I think it's a little bit body language. When you turn your body, you break every communication. No? If I turn not, it's because I don't want to talk, or because I'm not with you, or because I don't have eyes in my back. So. Means that end of communication, and also means that something that remembers me the punishment in the Frankist schools, where you had to spend part of your educational time facing the wall or facing the corner because you did something wrong. I suppose here was the same. It's very common punishment for kids. And I was using this methodology also to make photographs of crowds, of a lot of people. I have 1,000 and 1,000 photographs of crowds, of women from Romania that were asking for money, or Indians with shawls in Mexico, or beggars, or crowds of crowds. And I think it's a good methodology it's the same that the officiality asks you to do, which is the classical photograph of yourself, but turn it, no? And I also think that is how I usually see the people, no? Usually you don't see the people face to face, the people you don't know. Only when you are waiting for somebody coming in the airport, no? You can see the faces of the people, or right now. But usually you see the people, the back of the people. So I think it's an atmosphere. So it's not something that I can say a language, no? That something corresponds with something, no? But I think that it's easy to catch the atmosphere I'm talking about. It's not an atmosphere, or I'm talking about freedom for their absence, no? And it's also always an homage to the people. It's a weird way to make an homage to the people to create this tense situation, but if you think, for example, in the sculptures we have of the workers, this morning, do you remember the sexy worker completely naked with a saw, no, with the muscles? Well, it's okay. It's a vision. This vision is obviously propaganda to make the workers feel better with themselves and to feel themselves heroes. But if you want to make a true homage, you have to tell the real situation of the people, no? And you cannot tell that the people is heroic when are suffering or when are in a very bad situation. So sometimes what I show is how they deeply really are. Thinking also to face the black shadow, no, of ourselves, instead of showing. So the black shadow, I mean like Jung, no? Talking in the same level. So what you don't, this part of yourself that you don't want to see. And it's difficult to watch to the eyes of this, to the black shadow. And I was trying to do that for a while. I think that was very interesting because when I started to do that, was completely new. It was like an insult in art galleries or in museums. Was considered like very offensive. And what is offensive is obviously that is misunderstood of social classes. No? An art gallery or a museum is a place for UP people or for people with a lot of baggage or with. So it's not for workers, it's not for right now, I mean. So it should be for everybody, but right now it's for high-level people. So then I decided to make their lives a little bit more interesting, show them the effects of their own lives in other people's. In the case of Iraqi people in the gallery, I was thinking in the dock of Pompeii, these sculptures of Pompeii, that when the volcano destroyed everything and created these molds, and thinking in the war like a crazy volcano. No? Also in the images of Abu Ghraib, some of the images are very similar. On that time was an oil ship. Well, I don't know that. The ship that are carrying oil, and was collapsed in the coast of between Portugal and Spain, and the people was dressed in the same way. So sometimes I'm trying to conceptualize in the present very much the piece, and you have to understand that in 2 years later or 5 years later, nobody will remember how you contextualize it and becomes more pure, the piece. So sometimes it looks very conceptualized, but it's not. It's just a trick to make them pass through the audience.
So can we actually say that you work with situations?
You can say whatever you want about me.
Yes, I see what you mean. But the situation goes, and then the problem is probably that you have to recontextualize that moment, and maybe that is one of the reasons why I don't really like to go back to your work. But then, before we proceed, there is one thing that I wanted to ask you about. When you spoke extensively about people turning their backs to the viewers, and I was thinking that, you see, it is a very vulnerable position for any human, on the one hand, like we don't see with our backs, it's very simple, that's physiological, but that's a big impairment, to our capacities in principle. But then in terms of social critique, which you are famous for, one could also say that you were showing these people, these invisible people, they are invisible in terms of social reality. If you'd speak of workers, we don't see them normally, so we don't see their faces, we don't identify them at all. They're just an invisible substance that exists somewhere. And you did work with these notions of the visible and the invisible. Remember, you had a watchman, I think it was a watchman, who was placed for 15 days, who was isolated for 15 days. It was in the PS1 gallery in New York. And he said that never ever in his life were people more interested in him and in his personality as when he was isolated from the public. So obviously at a certain moment you were interested in this play of the visible and the invisible, and of laying bare certain things that are in principle invisible, such as the logic of capitalism. So, well, maybe you could say something about that, if you feel like doing it.
No, the story of this piece in PS1 is funny because my idea was trying to be much more clear or much more visible. No? If you go to PS1, you see that all the people who's working in storage or have the real work, to work with the materials, or to download containers, or with the works coming out. There used to be black Latins, like Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, or local black people, descendants of slaves. Then in the people who working in each place in this room, they used to be white trash, no? Let's say Latins, but not black Latins. And then in the top floor is where the people is taking the decisions or making or having a more sophisticated work is completely white. They look Germans or whatever. And my idea was to put everybody who's working in the museum in order of according with the amount he become a month. And was obvious that will become a scale from dark to white. No? They didn't like it at all, of course, because, and I understand, because they try to look open mind, and nobody likes to have a portrait of themselves like that, no? Looking like part of a social and fair structure. No? So I couldn't do that, and I decided, okay, let's do it in Visio. I did it with Ralphie. I remember Ralphie very well because he was very fat and he wanted to become a thinner. For him was, okay, you let me isolated here, and in this he put a bicycle inside. At the end he was asking for pizzas all day and he became more fat. But he makes a lot of friends, and he was surprised because he was always there and become very important, and when nobody saw his face, no? And the people was, oh, pure man. No, Ralphie was very good. No, I can promise you. And it happens many times. For example, in Kunstwerke in Berlin, I was working with Chechenian people precisely, which is, well, you know the situation better than me. But in Germany, the thing is that the people who have political asylum cannot work. And then I was meeting these people, and these people are workers. The hands are bigger than my arm. And these people is doing nothing, no? Just letting the kids who provide food at home stealing radios in the cars or whatever. So the people is absolutely depressed. I meet with all of them, with a lot of big men, sad and furious. And when I explained in the project, it was a silence. And I thought, no, they are going to push me or something. But one of them says, okay, to be here in this apartment, or to show ourselves without showing ourselves, I prefer the second one, and they participate. They were closet in boxes during the exhibition time, and I had to pay him under the table because it was illegal to pay them. The thing is that many people was asking me for, or was very worried about these persons, and nobody cares about the guard who was 8 hours a day in the same place, in the same gallery, with a worse salary, and probably, well, invisible. No? I also was trying in Tate, I don't know if you remember that, to move a chair of the guy of the watchman, instead of in the corner of a gallery, to put it in the center. But they didn't like it, no, for reasons of to don't become important. Today I have seen a very nice project from Olga. Olga is called, no? Olga. That reminded me that is an artist, a local artist who's making photos of watchmen of museums. I think it was very interesting, and I feel a lot of affinity with what I saw of this artist.
Oh, well, since you mentioned this point, when you have to pay the people who participate in your performances, you see there has been much talk about the kind of remuneration or compensation or payment that you offer. And here is where this ever-lasting topic of ethics pops in. Santiago, I can't help mentioning it, you know. Well, because specifically, you know, when you invited two drug addicts and, well, they sit together. I saw this, many people know the photograph. They sit together and you shaved their heads, you know, they sit with their heads like this, and there's a stripe, you know, uniting their two heads. And you know, they say that well, you actually offered heroin, you gave them heroin. So, I mean, in some people's view, this is a very problematic gesture. And this makes spectators, I won't say us, but some spectators feel very uncomfortable. And of course, you've heard that more than once. You've been accused of, I don't know, immorality, whatever.
I feel very proud of the accusation.
Yes,
if the bourgeois morality don't like
yes.
what I'm doing, they can go to the opera. There is still entrance available. No? In the case of the junkies in Puerto Rico, I was trying to pay them regularly. But the thing is that they had a problem with the dealer because the dealer wanted to hit them, to these people, and they asked me to buy them instead of pay them with the money. The money will finally goes to that. And they asked me to buy the drug for him, and I did it. It's not a big issue.
Well, no, I see what you mean, but for the people, as you said before, you know, when people come and see, like, just people standing facing the wall, people of different color assembled into a line, showing, you know, this gradation of color and so on, this already becomes very problematic, as you say, from the point of view of bourgeois morality. But the way you compensate the kind of social contract.
But the thing is that for me are people. So I understand that you hear the word hawker, or you hear the word junkie, or black people, or whatever, and you be, oh, it's terrible. No, it's people like you and me. I don't know. A junkie is a person. A hawker is a person. It's a worker. It's a worker that doesn't make something very different to download tracks. No? It's the same. Or to work hardly in a fabric. It's an use of the body too. Not in your own profit, but in the profit of somebody else. It's very common. It's what we usually do. I don't feel weird. Maybe it's because it's not empathy. I think that I'm one of them. I'm a person like any other. So I don't see the moral problems. I see that, of course, the society have a lot of problems with themselves. There is something very funny that happened in I don't know if you know about that, in Iceland, because I did a present to the people of Iceland, to the people of Reykjavik, and the present was the monument to the civil disobedience. And the monument to the civil disobedience is a big stone it's based in a Russian artwork. In fact, it's La Cuña. It's the red cone is the original, but I use the black cone because I know red, but libertarian. And the cone destroys a big rock, and I put a plaque, and the plaque says when the government violates the rights of the people, is there not only the right but the duty of the people to fight against the power. And the discussion in Iceland was funny because the discussion was not about the piece itself. It was about, oh, this man was working with hawkers. How can we accept a present of somebody like that? No, and with junkies and with, well, I don't know. I don't care.
Well, that's a good point.
This is, I put this video because it's the opposite of that. No? This is very materialistic work in the sense that what you see is the arm of a worker pressing through the ceiling of the top floor. In the top floor was living a family over the gallery, and it's the reality who came through the ceiling, and in a form of laxity, of a serrano ham that you can pick up a piece instead of the sexy sculptoric worker we saw this morning as this other image of available, useful, so something that you can use, something that you can rent. And this is an image of depression. No? It's an image of, it's the opposite of that. No?
Santiago, tell us please, do you draw inspiration from other artists? Who do you collaborate with, perhaps? I mean, do you have collaborators in the art world? Or are you all by yourself? Are you lonely wolf? What are you?
No. Well, I signed the pieces in the sense that I signed because I'm more than author responsible. No? The responsible. I did it, no? But But you always work with people. I always was working with other artists and with. So it's impossible to understand my career. So if I arrive to a country and suddenly I make something very complicated, how I make it? Because fantastic people involved in art used to be very helpful in every country. I was very lucky because, of course, I don't used to be called by idiots. I used to be called by very smart people with very good intentions, and they helped me a lot. And I don't know. Recently, I start to collaborate with other artists I like. I never did it before, to share in the authorship with Franz Herald Walter, who was an old teacher, with my old friend Jorge Galindo, with, I don't know, with, ¿cómo se llama? The Lombard man, but I don't remember many people, and I think it's normal. I think that the authorship is overestimated, in the sense that what we do is to pick up information of the reality of the artwork and to transform it, to recontextualize it, and to, I don't know, to clean it up a little bit and to make it contemporary and to put it again in the table. So, but it's not, I don't believe in the creation as a process to make something radically new, and I don't see the need to make something radically new. I prefer to use codes that everybody understands. So to use something that is very, very common is easier than to use something radically new.
And how would you describe the collaboration with the workers, with the people, the hookers that you invite to participate in your pieces? What kind of collaboration do you have?
Sexual collaboration. No, well, I think I think that the figure of the soldier and the prostitute is capital to understand how our society works, because the soldier rent his morality, doesn't belong to him. It's kill and I kill. It's not my decision. I'm just a piece of the system. And in the case of the prostitution, it's clear that the person who enjoys is not the prostitute but the client, and it's very clear that when we work, it's not for our profit but for the profit of the boss, for the profit of the person who pay money. I think that these two figures are like archetypes, universal archetypes, the soldier and the prostitute of work. That's why I used to work with them. And also I think the sexuality is always very tricky. I think it's nothing more political than sexuality. In the pieces, I don't know if you have any porno video here, but I did some. For example, I was making a series of anal penetration between black and whites, men's and women's, in a huge composition, creating the biggest porno movie in Spain in terms of participating people. To fuck somebody in the anus is have another meaning. It's not about love, it's something else. It's about power, it's about submission, it's about somebody receives and somebody gives. It's about that.
So I'm thinking that maybe people who have come here tonight would like to ask some questions, because I see very many professionals sitting here. So maybe we could turn to the audience for more questions that they would like to pose.
I don't know if you've been told yet, but your performance here at the Bakhmetyev Garage is not taking place for the first time. I mean, it's been here before. In 2009, 5 years ago, Tajik's Art, the Russian art group, did your performance here. In fact, it repeated the performance you titled 465 Paid People. And Tajik's Art is a group that replicates well-known pieces of art, performances, for instance, by hiring very low-paid and low-qualified workers from the CIS states. Basically, they did the same here, the same performance you did, and people they used were young people. They were hired for this. It's young people who go to all kinds of political events. They go there for free, hoping they will be entered in a database and involve them into events that would be paid. So this is what happens with young artists who participate in exhibitions in this country. My question is, what do you think and how do you feel about this paramount fashion or trend in replicating the performances? Marina Abramovich loves doing this. And how do you see it when the performances you created with your own senses are replicated and new senses and meanings come into them?
See, well, I do that too, no? Sometimes, for example, now we did a show in Hamburg and was a kind of retrospective, no? And we had to, as it was a retrospective, we had to repeat some works, and when you repeat it, which I know is not what I'm doing, but sometimes, in that case, I did it. Of course, becomes completely different. We make a piece from the '92, in which I was taking pieces of a street, and when we repeat it in Germany, 20 years later, the material is completely different, was much more strong, the methodology to cut it was much more sophisticated, the piece was completely different, no? It is obvious. So when you repeat a piece, you cannot repeat it. It's like a Heraclito, no? We cannot be in the same river twice. But if the people like to do it, go ahead. I did it for that, no? For a kind of retrospective, but usually I don't like to repeat. So in the case of the veterans, it's not a repetition, it's that I insist, and I will insist for years, putting veterans facing the war, because the war is becoming much more militarized, and there is much more veterans in our society. It's time in every country there is a lot of veterans, people with their lives broken by the war, by stupidity, no? Because for somebody else's profit, no? And I will insist, no? I think it depends on a strategy. The case of Marina Abramovic, well, it's very special. You know her. This is how she is. I think she like to repeat.
I think it's a different kind of performance. We didn't speak about various forms of performativity, but there are different types of performance artists and different performance works in themselves. So probably
well, performance is not what I'm doing. For example, in the case, I'm working now in a project with Yanis Kounelis, and you know that Yanis Kounelis says that he is a painter. He says that what he does is based in the painter tradition and is painting in another way. No? You need a horse. Why to paint a horse? You have a horse. What is the situation? So it's words. I think that performance, for me, have bad reputation in the sense that the meaning in English is somebody who's playing somebody else's work. No? It's a player. It's, for example, a trumpetist. But it's no. I prefer the word actionist or action, because it's an actionist art or art of behavior. But performance, I don't like. I also don't like the idea, or I never think I'm going to make a performance or I'm going to make a picture. I think I want to say that, I want to use the resources I have. But I think that right now nobody thinks in that terms. No? So I'm an artist, so I'm a photographer, or we have a lot of resources and we can use it, no? We should use it. I think that sometimes performance is becoming a sectarian thing, or weird theater, or sick theater, or something like that. And there is people who's making just that and organize it in performance festivals. And I never like it to be part of the circus, performance circus. No? But I understand that I can be included because it's action, no, what I'm doing. But nobody's playing. I mean, I accept what happened in artwork. No? Sometimes the people who's going to participate change me the artwork, and I have to accept it, and I like to accept it because it's all intrusion of reality in my work made my work more real. No? So this idea of art and life is also weird because we are alive always while making art, so there is no difference. Then the dimension of there is a performatic dimension of the painter, performatic dimension of a sculpture, of film, everything, no? Everything is life. So these distinctions are useful, no, to organize shows or to catalogate the work, but not useful for work as artists. No? As artists, I use everything is in my hand. I refuse to get specialized in nothing. I don't know how to do nothing with my hands. And I think that it was an advantage for me because I'm not obsessing what I create with my hands. And I always call professionals who know perfectly how to do better than me what I'm planning to do. So I think it's very useful, and I recommend for artists not to think in terms of this is something that came from Beaux-Arts, from Bellas Artes, from this concept of 19th century, no? That you have to learn different categories, no? Or sculpture, or I think art is art in general. So we are free to use all of them.
Is there anyone else? Any volunteers, please?
This is a simple question. Why aren't all your performances always documented in black and white only? Why do you feel so passionate for black and white aesthetics?
Well, it's a common question, this. Well, there is, for one decision, sometimes there is a lot of reason, no ones. There is a lot, so I want to explain you some of them. The first one is because when I start to making photograph, or when I was a student, it was not the digital era yet. So the photograph for me it was two kind of photographs. The touristic photograph, the one that you take and you send to somebody to the laboratory and they give you back the photographs, or the one that you make yourself. And it's much more easy to make a black and white than color yourself. So for me, my first contact with photography was to make my own photographs and to see in the laboratory. And it's black and white, so I feel that this is close and color is far away. And there is also, I'm a great fan of the artists from the period of 1960 or 1975, let's say. And I would like to look like one of them. I like my catalogs look like something from the 70s, no? And I like a lot that. Also because the color is unhandleable. The color gives you a lot of information, and there is also the trick of Guernica, no? In which the power is to throw away all the motion, no? To put it away. So how the motion becomes more rational. The Guernica is like a very, very big newspaper, no? Very big old newspaper. And I like this look. Also it's the look of the press, the regular press that I used to read all of my life. No? The press used to be in black and white, to intellectualize the image too, no? And also because on that time everybody was making big photos in color, and I say, okay, I will do the same but in black and white to be different. So it's many reasons.
Does that also imply a kind of documentary aesthetics, if you will, like something that is or seems to be more true to life? Because I agree that color is abundant, sometimes overabundant. It distracts you from certain things.
It's another work. The work with color is complicated. You have to, for example, I remember when I took the decision. I took the decision in Mexico because I remember that I was taking pictures of very ugly neighborhood, very hostile places, and the photographs were looking perfect. No, were looking like because it's the atmosphere of the tropics that makes everything looks like, I don't know, with a bright, with a color that looks fantastic, looks beautiful. And I want to make much more rough the image. And this is when I started to discard the color information completely. But many people, but all my pieces have color, the documentation, no? But the pieces, yes, because it's the reality have color. It's just the documentation. See, it's an aesthetic of documentation, and I want to look like an artist from the 70s.
Anyone else?
But you're not just invited to give this public talk today, right? I mean, you're a public figure in many ways, right? I mean, it's not the criticism. It's just I'm just being curious. What do you think about it? You know, when they invite you to do something on a fee-based basis. I mean, when you pay you for this, how do you see yourself in this paid role?
How I feel when I'm paid? Very happy. No, very happy. So one of the good things of art is when they pay you very well, and this is good. This is good because have sense to work and to keep working. You feel that somebody in the society give value to what you do, and to have a good remuneration is very good. I don't think I'm exactly a worker because I'm doing what I want. So the question of to work is to work. It's a slavery in the sense that what you are really doing is to rent your body, your intelligence, and your time in the other people's profit. And it's not exactly what I am doing, you know, because I'm doing whatever I want, and then somebody buy me a piece and make me happy. So it's completely different. But of course, I'm a handcrafter or some kind of handcrafter, but not exactly a worker. I think it's very different. The life of the workers is not my life. It's different. Sometimes I have to do things that I don't like, as everybody. I clean my ass every day. I don't like to do that. I would like to have I don't know, an electronic machine to do that, but I do it. So I do many things that I don't like a day. But a worker had to do it constantly. Had to do it 8 hours a day, during year by year, for the rest of their lives. For what? For a shitty compensation, no? Because probably when you get old, you don't even like in Spain now. Imagine all the baby boomers, people who was born in the 60s, because in the 60s the idea was to in a country after a war they need workers, no? And they have this baby boomers, no? Many people. Each family have four children at least, no? And they are my age or older, much older, some the first ones. And these people, the retirement is not clear for them. And they were paid taxes for all his life. So the treatment is not fair. I think that to work is the worst thing you can do. It's not a good idea. So because you are giving your brain, your body, your intelligence, your time for somebody else's use, and your life is yours. It's not some. But I understand you. Well, you have to. But I think it's not a good choice to be a worker. Very bad. It's not a good business. It's not a good deal.
I apologize. This builds on the question of black and white photos. I was very pleased to hear that your reference to black and white photography was a reference to the aesthetics of the 60s and the 70s. I wanted to ask, I always felt that what you do is a critique to the minimalism or performance by Marina Abramovich. It's the critique of the impossibility of the purity of art, which minimalism claimed. Is this so?
See, well, I'm thinking in minimalist, but also in the industry normativity, no? In the industrial normativity, because a cube is good for a merchandise because you can pile one over the other one. It's easy to transport. If you standardize the measures, becomes more easy for selling in other countries. So I think that the minimalist is a sublimation of the industrial normativity, you know, in a way. And I use it in that sense. It's weird for me, the minimalist, because the best show I have seen in my life was the Panza di Vimo collection. I was impressive, no? It's how powerful is the minimalist, no? How they control, how the effects of presence, of evidence, of materiality. This is amazing, no? So they control the ABC of art, really. So there is nothing more powerful than a Richard Serra or a good Carl Andre, but it's meaningless. It's empty. And I think that the minimalist can be very useful if you think that it's an empty glass and you put whatever you want on it, and becomes much more powerful. So okay, a cube, but make a cube of bread and give it to the charity, for example, and film it. And then the cube becomes something else, enrichment, no? It's the enrichment of the cube. So, but at the beginning I was thinking in industrial normativity.
My question is about the people who participate in your project. Very often, the lack of freedom, the humiliation of hard labor is what they experience in daily life. And you highlight it. You put them face to face with their lack of freedom. Have you had any interesting experiences whereby these people provided some spontaneous reaction to the situation? Have you talked to them? Have they shared the impressions and feelings with you? Have they changed? Have these impressions changed? Could you recall these cases?
Yes, well, more at the beginning than in my late works, where I'm trying to don't make the things very personal. I'm trying to don't sell myself as nothing. No, I'm trying to look myself as the boss. What can I do? I'm not trying to lie them. But at the beginning, I was very involved. So I'm one of them. No, I'm a person. So I'm a person who was in a lack of freedom, and I start to get freedom as I start to get recognition as artist, because I was in the same situation, working for life and renting my body like everybody else. So I'm not talking about imagination, but about things that happens to me. So maybe it's the case of the anarchist in Rome was kind of funny, because I convinced a group of anarchists to listen the most of the pop for money, no? And this is something that I'm still thinking how was possible. But money makes to move mountains. I make them earn some money, and afterward we have fun in a squatter, so it's okay.
But I think Andrei is interested not so much in the reaction of the anarchists, who must have been very articulate people, but the workers, right? For example, the immigrants. I mean, just those people that took part in your actions. I will not call them performances. How would they respond? Did they ever respond in any way? Did they talk to you? So that was what Andrei was talking about.
Well, when you are doing, because I'm using crowds many times, when you are making a piece with 400 people, it's better than they don't start talking to you. So you are, I don't know, you are trying to manage the situation in different ways, depending on the time. But if it is very intense, for example, a tattoo or the masturbation piece, well, the worst thing I had to do once was to throw away during the film of Los Penetrados, or The Penetrated. I had to throw out of the place to the black men who came very drunk and trying to treat him bad, all the women, and okay, you are the responsible, you threw him out. No? And he said, you go out. It was like to the big men, no? I was with the balls like that. But it's life, no? So I suppose, I don't know. I don't like very much the anecdotic things about it. So it's people, it's life, and things happen. No?
What is the correlation between the time of your performance, the fixation it does, that is the recording on a film or through a photograph or video recording, right? And the discussion of this performance. What is it out of these three that gives you the utmost pleasure? What matters to a greater extent to you? What is less important? Basically, how do they correlate these parts? For instance, do you derive any pleasure from, for instance, witnessing how a public discussion of your performances unfolds? Do you participate in this? Do you promote them in a focused way, or does this happen just naturally? And should a painter be present in this? I mean, is this part of the actual action that takes place in real time, then it's recorded, and only then it's part of the public domain?
No, I don't organize discussions. And I don't make performance either. I'm using the bodies of sculptoric objects. They are objectualized, no, most of the times. So for sure, this is a performatic thing in everything, no? In the making of a sculpture or not. But for example, when I started my first pieces, when real presence of people, was in a big museum in Mexico, and I realized that because everything you make in a big museum costs a lot of money. Whatever material of, imagine, in a big place, a material of 2 meters for 2 meters, costs money. And you know what is the cheapest material to fill in a space, people? They came along, they go along. You pay them for you don't have to clean afterwards. It's the cheapest way to fill in a space. You just have to lie them. And how to lie them? With money. Money is the big lie. So this is how I see the situation. I'm not a performance artist. I'm just an artist.
I understand you had several years ago a performance in the building or next to the building of the former synagogue in Germany, and that was quite provocative, a pretty well-known performance. So what was the real idea of this performance, if you recall this? Naturally.
I was thinking in the old generation, in a generation of German artists that I admire and I like a lot. Well, you know, I explained you the situation. The situation is a former synagogue in Germany, and they used to make artworks once a year to make an homage to the people died by his religion in Germany, you know, by being Jewish. And well, it's difficult when they ask you to make something like that, because you are dealing with millions and millions of these people, no? And with something that is painful everywhere. No? And what I did was, I was thinking in people that I like, and is part of the generation of German artists that were affected by the war. No? For example, in Gustav Metzger have this Stockholm project, in which the fumes of the car goes to the building, or for example, well, it's more serious. No? He, for example, put for the fume of the car to a fish tank over a car, and the fish tank was full of life, but the life was destroyed by these fumes. I don't know if you know this artwork. Gustav Metzger is the self-destructive art, or an art against the civilization of the culture. It's very strong artist. And I was thinking of him. I was thinking in Eva Hess in the way he have this geometrical, organic geometry. Eva Hess was from Hamburg, German, and he dies as American with no German passport. Or I was thinking in Wolf Vostel to recreate the decollage, in which there is a recreation of alarm situations, no? With policemen, with cars, with alarms. Wolf Vostel was living the last time of his life in Spain. He have a lot of relation in Spain, and I have in my house a photograph of his tomb. Of his tomb, we say tomb, lapid, and it says it says in Spanish and in Hebrew, but not in German. It's the things that you don't know, the things that will change your life, and it sounds like something beautiful, and it's not. No? It's a terrible sentence if you think twice. I was thinking in this generation of artists, also in the Bomb of Milk of Joseph Beuys, in which is a motor, and the motor creates a movement. And well, you know, it's whatever you talk about this thematic, and it's not to put flowers, will create discussion and will create problems. So what can I do? I have to act in a society. I know the society is not free and it's difficult, but we have to act always as free people, even if we are not. No? Or this is my idea, no? To act as a free people. I did an excellent work. I don't know if it's here. Oh no, it's disconnected. It's in my website, you can see it there. There is a long video.
When you sleep, do you dream of people who you use in your works? And if you do dream of them at night, are these good dreams or bad dreams? Like, for instance, the drug addicts, prostitutes, and workers.
I suppose, I don't know. Sometimes I remember my dreams, sometimes I not. No, you mean that if I have bad conscience? No, I don't have. I'm making good art. And I'm very quite proud of myself. And you see hawkers in your dream? Thank you, thank you. Is this, it means that we finished?
I don't know. Any other questions? Please. Yes, one more question. Santiago, one more question.
I can do English. So much for talking about your work. So you mentioned that some of your art has been called offensive, and there are people who feel offended by your art. Of course, offensive is a very relative term. Some people are offended by one things and others are offended by other things. But do you think that offensive in general, something that is considered offensive in a standard Western society, let's say, do you think this art has the right to be public? For example, can it be displayed somewhere outside, or it has to be within the premises of museums and art galleries and so on? Because I know a lot of people who say, well, this may be art, but I don't want to see like naked people outside. You know, I don't want to see just stumble upon someone who is doing something really provocative. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Let's see. Well, I think that I'm making art for people, for free thinkers. No? The people who offend easily is a reaction. No? It's a reaction that stops the possibility of talk. No? I'm offended. I don't want to talk. So but I understand that it's a difference, and the artists have to evaluate. No? It's a difference about when you are protected by four walls and when you are in a street. You are in a street is also a lot of different situations. No? Maybe you want to create a confrontation because you are working in front of the headquarters of NATO, for example. No? But you have to do something permanent. The people have a lot of pressure, and I don't want to put them more pressure. No? For example, this idea of the monument for Iceland, or I think I don't know. What we have to see is that the artists are not making provocations or making offense. We are making art, and art for free people and for free thinkers, and the people who create all of these problems used to be the press, no? Because the press have bosses, a newspaper is not free media, a newspaper have a boss and have an intention, and sometimes you make something and becomes another thing in the press, and you become a character, and your actions become something offensive. But I never met an artist who is trying to just offend everyone. No? Maybe there is artist who's trying to offend just one or a group, but to offend everybody, people who want to be hated or what. It's something that you have to calibrate. No? About naked bodies, come on, it's like I never understood that. So what is the problem in a penis, or what is the problem in a button or in a tits? I don't know. There is some societies in which a woman is giving the tit to the boy, and it's something like the worst. No, I don't understand these things. So our body is okay, you know. It's useful. It's a wonderful thing. So I don't see any problem in to show the body. And other people showing me the body.
So, Masha, does this mean that we are approaching the end? Yes, okay. So, Santiago, thank you very much for this most exciting and insightful conversation. I'm sure that people present here will go back to it in their dreams, and not only then. So we will think about what you told us. This has been a very precious opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Smoking time. Thank you.